Hi, Wayne.
Hello.
Welcome to Actors Making It. Thank you so much for joining me.
Pleasure to be here.
Good. I'm glad. I'm really excited to kind of talk about your journey to, journey to making it, or journey of making it, or journey to where you are now.
I don't even know. Yeah.
I think the further along life I get, the more I realize that no one, there's never a figuring it out, and there's never an end point. It's just you keep trucking, right?
You keep going until you can't go anymore. Yeah.
Very well said. Well, let's hope we both continue going for a long time yet. Again, thank you so much for joining me. Look, for people that are listening, Wayne and I met. I don't even know how we met, actually. I was going to say this is how we met. I remember you contacting me about, I think I auditioned for Arlo?
Yes, no, you did. That's right, you did.
According to Otto. That's right. I auditioned for According to Otto.
Yeah. Oh, was it no, it was Arlo, the short film Arlo, I think.
Yes, sorry, yes, Arlo.
My short film Arlo, you auditioned for that. Didn't give you that, role, but I enjoyed your audition, so you stayed in my mind.
Wonderful. And then we got onto that fun project, generic car ad, just before COVID took over the world.
Very much so. It was right at the end of that, and then and then we got to work together again a couple of weeks ago. So
yes, which was wonderful. So we'll get on to all of that. So talk to me. I guess, how long have you been on your journey as far as acting is concerned?
Well, I'm about to turn 47, so almost 47 years.
Okay.
No, I've always loved acting, and like my whole life, and even in primary school, I was the kid that always wanted to be in something. I remember somebody got cast in Joseph in the Nativity play at the end of the year, and I was devastated that I was only going to be a wise man. And then he got sick. I don't think I poisoned him, but who knows? I may have. And then I had to take on the role of Joseph, and I had a day to learn the lines, and I was like, I can do this. And, went on, did it. And then in year 4, I had possibly the best educator I've ever had in my life, a wonderful man called Colin Laundrie. And he used to encourage me to write plays, direct them in my lunch hour and with my friends, and then he would let us perform them in front of the class. I got my end of year report in year 4, and I got an A++ in drama, and he called me the Cecil B. DeMille of year 4. And he was so wonderful in my life, and the fact that him and his wife still come to my shows and watch them. They bought my book. They watch things that I do. They're still very much in my life, all the way back to 1984. It's pretty amazing.
That is phenomenal. So you started at a very young age.
Yeah.
Did you always, I guess, at that point in your life, or obviously at that age, did you think about acting as a career? Were you thinking about career at that point, or was it just something that you loved and that's...
It was just something that I felt that I wanted to do, and I just enjoyed doing it. And that stage, I don't think I did know. If you would have asked me back then, I probably would have said I wanted to be a teacher, because I had a teacher who inspired me. So,
sure.
But, then, of course, by the time I got to high school, that's when I was, focused on I want to be an actor. And then it wasn't until I got older that I realised that there was more to that.
Yeah, sure. Okay, fantastic. So when you got to the point where you decided that you wanted to be an actor from a career point of view in high school, what was your idea of making it, do you think, at that point in your life?
I wanted to be on Neighbours.
Okay.
Yeah. It was my favourite show as a kid. I was the perfect age to just really love Neighbours. And actually, funnily enough, on my birthday in year 7 was the day that Scott and Charlene got married. So
right.
it just felt like fate that, Neighbours was my destiny. That's what I wanted when I was that age. Which, and then as an adult, I got to work at Neighbours in the writing department. So it was...
Oh, did you? That's amazing.
Yeah, I was a storyliner on Neighbours. And so I felt like I was paying off younger Wayne when I got that job.
Amazing. Is there, now at the age that you are, I like to talk about, I guess, success and making it and what we think, what we strive towards, because I think often when it comes to people just starting out in acting, the goal post that they set themselves is often quite high, which is fame and success from a
30
monetary
Oscars.
perspective. Well,
Yeah.
exactly, right? So you've been acting now for 47, did you say? 40,
Yeah, yeah.
almost 47 years?
46 and a bit, thank you. Oh.
For 47 years. What's your perception now at this point in your life of what success is? And do you think that you're on track, or do you feel that you are successful?
Depending on the day that you ask me. If you ask me on one day, I'll say, yes, I'm very successful. If you ask me on another day, I'm like, I have achieved nothing in my life. I'm a disaster and I need to give this up right now. And it's probably somewhere in the middle. I have achieved a lot in my career and I'm so happy for all the things that I have done. But do I want to do more? Hell yeah. There's so much more I still want to achieve. And I'm not going to take age as a reason that I need to sit back. I'm still working I'm probably working harder now than I've ever worked in my life. And I love that.
Yeah, amazing. I think it's the age thing is a really interesting topic. I put a casting out this week actually in some groups for a short film that I'm putting together, and somebody messaged me on Instagram and he was like, "Oh, I saw this in the group, but and it's something that I always wanted to do, but I just, I wish I had have done it." And I'm like, "Well, you're not too old. There's people your age in the world that there are stories you can do it."
Yep.
So I think I love that kind of sentiment that age isn't a barrier.
Age is a number. I know that's a cliche, but it's the older I get, the more I realize that it is really true.
100%. Do you, when you were, because you've just said obviously you write for Neighbours, you're definitely a multi-hyphenate. So you're a writer and a director and an actor. And at what point in your career did you pivot to? Oh, I can't mind you. You just said it in year 4 you were doing that, right?
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and I think I forgot about it for a little while, but then I came back to it. I mean, I went to university and I had the choice between studying acting or television production, and I actually did go into television production.
Okay.
I feel like everyone was telling me that, and I actually, when I think about it now, I feel like it was a little dodgy. I feel like people looked at me and went, "You're not an actor, you're a crew member. You look like a crew member." So
is that something that you thought about then?
Sorry?
Is that something that you thought about at the time, or is that just something retrospectively you think about looking back?
It was probably in the back of my mind. I've always been a big boy, and so being a big boy, that sort of comes into play because, I always realised that I'm not the romantic leads. Which, at the age I'm at right now, I don't care. That's not what I want to be. And it's what I've never wanted to be. But back then, I guess, part of you does play into that and like go, oh, well, here's these really good looking guys and I can't compete with them. But I don't need to because I got my own game.
Yeah, sure. Do you talk, this is the stuff that I love to kind of delve into around the psyche of trying to forge a career in the arts and specifically acting. Can you recall at the time the way that made you feel and what you thought about that realization?
I guess I've always, like so many creative people, been riddled with self-doubt. And I know that that's not something that anybody who kind of knows me would think that I have. But I have had self-doubt my entire life. Self-doubt about me as a person, about me as, the way I look, about my talent, about all of it. Riddled with self-doubt. And it just is the years that take that away. Mm-hmm. You get to a certain point, and I think that 40 is a wonderful age because you start to get to the point where you go, I just don't care. And you know what? Other people can think what they want to think about me, and if they don't like me, oh, well, not my issue. It's their loss for not knowing who I am and what I can do. Yeah, sure. Did you have any, obviously at whatever age you were then, you hadn't reached that 40-year-old, I don't care. Did you have any kind of coping mechanisms when those kind of thoughts took over? I guess I end up throwing myself into it. And
Yeah.
I've just been a person who has just always done it. And I think I realized from a very early age that if I wanted good roles, I would need to write them for myself. And
Okay.
I've gotten to play so many great characters over the years because I wrote them for myself.
Yeah,
And I have
sure.
been accused of writing the best roles for myself. And you know what? I probably did.
Why wouldn't you? I mean,
Yeah.
if you're not being cast and you're writing something, of course you're going to write something
Yeah.
that works for you.
I'm a good writer, so I can write myself a good role. Yeah.
When did you make this? When did you start writing for yourself and roles for yourself?
So my first play came out in 2000, so that would have been
Okay.
25. I was trying to get a film up before then, so I spent a few years and I wrote a film. And again, I had that thing where I was trying to get this film together, and I wrote myself a really good role, and I let people talk me out of being in that film.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that's probably a good thing. It's probably a good thing that it didn't get made. But there was a role I wrote for myself that I loved, but I had these really great actors who said, "You are not experienced enough to play this role. Give it to an actor who's experienced." And I think that lived with me for a really long time. And then I started doing theatre, where I did just write myself roles. And, I spent a good almost 20 years making theatre where I was in it most of the time. And I really enjoyed doing that and playing so many diverse and wonderful characters.
Hmm. Did that particular film ever get made?
No, which was a bummer. It was around that time when it was really difficult to get money for a film. And, we looked like we raised some funds and then we didn't. And that was around the time that John Howard was changing the tax laws. And it was just, yeah.
Right.
Screw the film industry,
Any chance of it being revived?
Nah, no. I think it's still on my computer somewhere, but no. It's
I love that.
It's in the past.
Good. So the other thing, I mean, obviously you're speaking a lot about theatre, and I only kind of know you from a lot of the screen work that you've done. Is there a preference for you about what you enjoy to write and act in more?
If you would have asked me 10 years ago, I would have unequivocally said theatre. I was completely in theatre. I loved it in both Sydney and Melbourne. I got to do so much theatre. But then I guess I just reached a saturation point, and I realised, and I think that's when filmmaking became easier. Because it was only a few short years ago that anybody could go out and make a film, and it didn't cost you an arm and a leg. It wasn't going to take a $2 million budget to make something. So it suddenly became more accessible, and I just started doing it and realised that was where I wanted to be.
Okay. Yeah, cool. And I've noticed, not obviously, because there's some people that are listening to the podcast might not know who you are. You identify as a gay man.
I do, yes.
And there's been a lot of LGBT tones in a lot of the work that you've written, which is really beautiful. Talk to me about your, I guess, passion around writing and telling stories in that space.
I think every piece of work that I have done, except for some preschool theatre that I wrote, every other piece of work that I've done has at least featured one LGBTQ plus character. And I have written a lot over the years. It's just always been really important for me to include that representation, whether it be a gay man, a lesbian, or, bi person, trans person, whatever. Just as long as I have a character in there who is part of the rainbow family, I just think it's so important. And I just really want to tell stories about people in my community.
Yeah, sure. How did, because I mean, obviously with me, I also identify as gay, but how did, I guess, when you were growing up and not seeing LGBT stories on television, how did that kind of impact or affect you as young Wayne Tunks, and your, I guess, movement into the acting world?
I think, my upbringing has really shaped so much of my work. I grew up in the heart of suburbia in Western Sydney. I grew up in Blacktown. I went to Doonside High, which is a very rough high school. And me being there in the late 80s, early 90s was a really tough time. And I did have a tough time because I was the obviously gay kid at school and got teased a lot for that. And so I guess for me, it was turning what was perceived as a weakness from people in my school into a strength for me. And my LGBTQ plus work. Just, it's saying that at no point am I going to be ashamed of who I am because you told me I should be ashamed. I'm actually going to show you even more who I am.
Yeah, wow. So is it fair to say then that you didn't allow your sexuality to cloud your, I guess, vision for yourself in the acting world or in the...
I have never been in the closet in the industry.
Okay.
So from the moment I did my first play, I played a gay character in the first play that I did in 2000. I've never been in the closet. I've always been openly gay. And back then, I'd often work with actors who were very in the closet and thought that that's where they had to be. I never judged them for their own choices, but for me, it was always, this is who I am, and I'm going to let people know, and if they don't like that, I don't care. But then again, as I said before, I'm not going for leading man roles, so I don't have to worry about, whether that's going to affect my work. And most of the time I was creating my own work, so it didn't matter because I was never offended by my own sexuality.
Well, that's all right. That's positive then.
Maybe on strange random nights, but not on a regular basis. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Do you think that I feel like I'm trying to lead you down a path, and that's not my intention, but because obviously it sounds like you were always extremely comfortable and being out and proud as far as the industry is concerned.
Yeah.
But we know that the industry is a difficult place to make it for anybody diverse, let alone just gay, LGBTQIA plus folk. Did you, despite the fact that you were making your own stuff, did you feel that it ever affected or impacted whether you were going for leading man roles or not? Did you experience any negativity in the industry because of it?
I don't know whether I did personally.
Okay.
I think if people didn't like me, that wasn't the reason they didn't like me. But I remember doing a show at the Riverside Theatre at Parramatta, and one of the crew members told me that he had just finished working on another show, and there was a gay kid in the cast, and the rest of the cast teased him for being gay. And I got so angry for this kid who I'd never even met. And I was like, why couldn't they be here this week so I could go in and basically tell them all what I think of them? So I know it was happening to people around me, but for me, and I know that, it's probably not the story we want to tell, but for me, I have never felt discrimination because of my sexuality. And I have been somebody in my life that if somebody's not okay with my sexuality, I will just cut them out.
Fair.
Yeah, there was somebody that I knew for a very long time in my life, a very, very close friend, and when I came out, she had a problem with it, and I said, well, bye. Because if you can't love me for all of me, then you don't get me at all. So, and I guess I've only gravitated towards people who I know are okay with who I am and telling the stories that I tell.
Yeah. No, I think... Is there... Sorry, it's not often that I'm kind of lost for words on this podcast.
Sorry for my happy gay life.
No, not that I expect everybody to have a miserable existence as far as being homosexual is concerned, or anything else. It's just kind of really refreshing to kind of chat with someone that has kind of not let it get in the way of what their goal and what their passion is, because it's super easy to succumb to those to outside factors or outside opinion
Yeah.
in any part of your life, let alone just the acting world.
Yeah, and
So,
it's interesting, and probably the places where I've received criticism could be perceived as my gay interests. Like, I love pop culture, and so I've always put a lot of pop culture into my work. And I know that the cool kids from theatre from years ago didn't like my work because I wasn't cool enough, and I was writing plays about Madonna, which I wasn't allowed to do. So, I celebrate gay culture whether people want to or not. I always will find an audience because I know there are people out there who like the same things that I like. And you know what? Unfortunately, I'm not a wanky theatre producer who's going to make something that people don't understand. I'm here to give the people what they want, I hope.
sure. Yeah, great. Oh, I love that. What is I guess, because you make a lot of your own content, do you have kind of much advice around getting started, if people wanted to get started in that? If someone was like, okay, I'm never going to be a leading man, but I'm not getting cast, I should write my own content. What do you think is the best way to go about that?
Do it.
Succinct.
It really is. You won't know how good you are or what you are capable of until you try. No one's going to knock on your door and say, "Hey, hi, random person, would you love to come and do everything you've ever wanted to do in my film?" At the end of the day, the person who has your best interest at heart is you.
Sure.
And you are never going to succeed if you sit there wondering what you are going to do or just plotting your future. Give it a go. If it fails, it fails. And at the end of the day, if it fails, the only person who's really going to care is you.
Yeah.
So just give it a go. If you want to try writing, like, write something small. Write a 2-3 minute film. Write a 5-minute film, and hopefully you've got some friends who can make that with you, or go onto some groups on Facebook and see whether you can meet some like-minded people and just really give it a go. I mean, what have you got to lose? It's so easy to do nowadays, and it's cheap to do. So it just give it a go. And, it's something I say to my students all the time. If you want to try stuff, just try it. And if it works, fantastic. If it doesn't work, it's a life lesson.
Yeah. Well, yes, very, very, very true. So I guess that's another string to your bow there as well, the fact that you're also a teacher. And given, I guess, what you had said earlier, that had I have asked you when you were in year 4 what you wanted to be, it would have been a teacher.
Yeah.
When did you decide that was something that you wanted to do?
I kind of fell into it. I guess I've always been good with kids, and somebody I knew had an acting class, and they had some work, and they were like, "Can you fill in?" And I filled in for a few weeks teaching their acting class, and I just loved it. And that was like 20 something years ago. And so on and off, I've been teaching acting to kids and teens since then. I've done a little bit of work with adults, but quite frankly, I'd much prefer to teach acting to kids and teens.
They're a lot more
like
open,
tonight,
aren't they?
I was teaching earlier tonight, and I was just having so much fun with both the classes. The younger class, we started writing something for them, and just hearing them, just letting their creativity flow and just come out with the most crazy ideas. And then we were doing impros to see whether we could get it to work, and it's great. And then my teen class, we were shooting a mockumentary today, and just having real fun with that, and just letting them play, and constantly trying to pull something out of them, because once you get them in front of a camera, they want to hold back, and it's just about letting them play and explore and just become better versions of themselves.
Yeah, nice. I know you tend to use a lot of your students in a lot of your work as well, which is really nice, and I'm sure it's really rewarding to see them come to life.
Very much so. I love when I get to work with my students, and I know I love seeing their nerves and how much they care, which is just really rewarding for me as both a director and as a teacher, just to instill that into them, to really love what they do. And I'm shooting a web series at the moment and casting a lot of my students in it, and it's just really, really great to work with them.
I can imagine that it would be really interesting kind of bringing them from seeing them put into action what you've taught them on set. Well, I say I can imagine. I have seen them, but obviously I haven't taught them, so I've not been at that part of the journey. As you know, over the past few years, self-tapes have become the norm, and they are being used by more and more industry professionals to cast all sorts of productions. I've personally recorded self-tapes for theatre, and TV, and film, and commercials, and it makes life easier for casting as they can see more options. But what isn't easy for us actors is finding someone to read for us in the moment that we need them. That's where We Audition comes in. We Audition is an online video chat community where you can call someone that has marked themselves available and they will read for you for your audition. You can use We Audition to rehearse, film, or just ask questions that may help your audition. Last year I had an actor contact me who had never drank alcohol, who just wanted to know how to play drunk. You can sign up to We Audition to be a reader yourself. I log into We Audition most days and I just leave it on, and people call and I accept, and I help them with their auditions. So you can earn a little extra cash doing that, and you can just meet some great people. I even helped one of the main cast of Morning Wars tape an audition towards the end of last year. Look, it's a great platform, and if you're going to sign up to be a reader, it basically pays for itself. So if you want to sign up to be a reader on We Audition, you can get 25% off using the Actors Making It discount code MAKINGIT. So just go to www.weaudition.com and use the code MAKINGIT when you sign up. Did you ever have, I guess, desires to explore the international acting journey?
No, not before. It's probably more now.
Okay.
You know, I think after I did my web series After Nightfall and got to take it some film festivals around the world and got to meet other filmmakers, that's when I started going, oh, this is kind of really cool. So probably I have more of a desire now to think about overseas than I did back then. Back then, I think I was just very focused on what I was doing and where I was.
Yeah. Cool. What's your, I guess, I know that you just said that you're working on a series at the moment. Do you have, like what's the word I'm looking for? Like a goal plan, or like certain things that you want to achieve in your career that you're working towards?
Definitely. You know, I want to be able to continually working and to be paid for it, I guess, is the end goal. You know, and I would love to create my own show and be a showrunner and to be in my own show. That would be really fantastic. But, you know, just keep, as I've always done, I'm just keep plugging away and keep on going. And as long as I'm making a career from the arts, then, you know, I'm happy.
Yeah. I think that's a really important thing for a lot of people to think about, is the plugging away. Now, as you've said already, you've been doing this for many decades. You've been doing this for
I'm a seasoned pro right now. Yeah.
You've been plugging away for a number of years, and I think so often, I'm 40 next year, and I've only been properly plugging away at it again for the last 5 years. But even the people that I surround myself with, there are a lot of younger actors that I know, but even people around my own age that have only been doing it a similar amount of time, they're constantly like, well, I haven't achieved it yet, so it's obviously not going to happen. And I think the plugging away is something that so many people don't really appreciate with acting.
Yeah.
What is it that keeps you motivated to keep plugging away?
I have a genuine love for what I do, and I just have so many ideas that I just need to get them out. And I honestly would not feel comfortable stopping.
Okay.
I feel like if I stopped, that would probably be the end of me, because I just feel it so much in my blood and in my soul. And I've got a million story ideas, and whatever one is out at that moment and fighting for attention, it wants to get made, and I just have to keep going. I honestly think it's in the blood, and I can't do anything else.
Sure. Can you give us some insight into your process of when you have an idea to bringing that through to an actual, okay, now I'm ready to put this into production?
Yeah, and some are faster and some are slower than others. So there's often things that whirl around the mind for a very long time. Like, for example, I'm shooting a web series at the moment called Spook Siblings, which you've got a role in as well. And that one was in the head for a little while, and I was thinking about it. And then I was thinking about what project am I going to do next? And I mentioned to my good mate Jacinta, who plays my sister in the web series, I mentioned the idea to her, and she is a really great motivator for me. Often I will mention ideas to her, and if she responds in a really positive way, I feel like I can't let her down.
Okay.
So I go and create it, and I went and wrote this in a very quick time, and it was just the one that was ready to come out at that time. And there's ones that I think that aren't fully formed, and I try to write those or I try to work on them, and they just don't come out. And I get a little bit into it, and I'm like, nah, this isn't working, and then I give it up. Whereas, yes, the ones that are ready are really quite easy for me to write.
Okay. So if someone had an idea, what if it won't come out for you, or if somebody does have an idea and they want to kind of move on that idea, what do you think is the key ingredients to be like, yep, it's the right time for this story to manifest now?
Plotting. So plotting is the most important thing. So you need to. So I often go really crazy. Like in my bedroom, I have so many post-it notes, and often walls will be covered in post-it notes. I'll just write ideas down and put them down. I'll have whole character arcs that'll go along on my walls with ideas of what's happening and who's who and who's doing this and what's going to happen. So quite often I will just start and I'll write a little bit, and then if I'm loving what I'm writing, that's when I'll go plot, and I will go crazy with my plotting. So I will know exactly what's going to happen through the story, and then it's about making that skeleton and then fleshing out the skeleton afterwards.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to ask what is probably will seem like a really dumb question, but for the benefit of anyone listening that doesn't know, what is plotting, and what does that look like? And do you need that for a 3-minute film versus a 10 or 20-minute film? When's the right time? What is it, and when's the right time to do that?
You still need to plot for a 3-minute film. So basically, because so many people write and then they don't know how to end things. So often you will watch things and you're like, that ending was terrible. It's a common complaint that people have.
So many things.
I think that is through lack of plotting. So by plotting, I am creating storylines for my characters. I am deciding who they are as people. And often, sometimes I'll put things in a plot and I won't end up using them, but it still helps me when I'm writing the dialogue or the scripts, because I know more about that character. And the more you know about your characters and about the situations they're in, the better the work that you're doing is and the richer it is going to be. So you need to create that world for them. You're the person. You are playing God to these people. So you need to create the world that they live in. And the more you know about it, the better you are at understanding and writing something good.
Okay. Do you ever get to a point with the work that you've written, given that you've just talked about writing that or understanding that character really fully?
Yeah.
Is there ever instances where you have understood a character so deeply, but then when an actor comes in and takes that character, it feels different to what you imagined? And what do you do in those situations? Yeah,
constantly. And sometimes it works in two different ways. An actor can come on and completely blow what you've done, and you're like... But then another time, an actor will come in, and this is when it works really well, and they will take what you have created and then make it bigger and better.
Yeah.
Because that's the job of the actor. The job of the actor is to take what they have been given on the page and to make it sing. So that's what it is. As a writer, I want what I've created to be out there, but I also want the person to really give it a life of their own.
Yeah.
So for me, one of my plays that I wrote in 2004 was just on last year in Tasmania. and I went down to watch it, and it was a completely different, it was a different director to me, and watching the cast, and I just loved what they created. They brought something so new to their characters, and it was great because my work was still in there, but they made the words sing, and that just, it just made me so very happy.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite hyphenate of your career? So if you're, you're teacher, writer, producer, director, actor, is there something that you lean towards more that you love?
Probably writing.
Okay. And
yeah, I would say
writing?
I'm a writer first.
Okay.
But I love acting, I love directing, I love producing, I love teaching, I love broadcasting. I love all of those things, but if I could only do one, it would be writing.
Amazing. Have you worked other careers outside of the arts? Or careers, not the right word. Have you worked other jobs outside of the arts to support your arts to kind of keep yourself going?
Yeah, and I don't go for big careers. I'm not. I don't end up in a 9-to-5 job. I usually, if I'm not doing anything in the arts, I've ended up in retail. When I finished at Neighbours, and then I was working at a documentary series in Melbourne, and then I ended up becoming an assistant manager for Witchery. So I was working at Witchery for quite a few years in both Melbourne and Sydney. And just getting offers, but would you like to be the store manager? No, I would not. Thank you.
So you never had a moment in the career then of second guessing the arts versus I could be a manager in one of these brands?
Not for a single second. As I said, it's in the blood. It's what brings me joy in life.
Yeah.
It's probably why I've sacrificed so many relationships, because I'm married to my career.
Okay.
Really bad boyfriend, but really great producer. It's on my dating profile. It should be, actually, yes.
Okay. Is there what advice would you give someone that may tackle that particular question of, maybe I should have a backup, or maybe I should, always second guessing the career choice?
You've got to listen to your heart sometimes. You've got to listen to what your heart is saying. And I know the head often says, I want to, and society tells you that you need to buy a house and have 2.5 children. And do all of this to be successful. And if you're not driving a sports car, then you are broke at life. But for me, it's always been about finding my joy. Okay. Money has never been what has pushed me. I'm about being happy, and that's what I question for myself. Like, what makes me happy? And if I'm doing a job and it's not bringing me joy, then I leave. And then I think it's what people need to question in themselves. Is the arts field bringing you joy? I know that there's bad days, but in general, is it bringing you joy? And if it is, then that's what you need to do.
I think that's a really good point, because so many people are not necessarily doing it for joy. They're doing it for validation and validation and superficial reasons sometimes, because we live in a world of Instagram and fame and
TikTok and reality TV. And you know what? If that's what gives you your joy, being on The Bachelor, then all power to you, sister. But for me, that's I get my joy in a different way. And if you're a clout chaser, it's only going to last for a certain amount of time, and then you're going to go back to your job. On the 35th floor of somewhere.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to ask one last question. Given that you're a teacher of kids and teenagers, if there are teenagers listening, or parents of teenagers that want, or children that want to get into the field, what advice would you give these guys?
So you can't just walk onto a set and be ready to act with really experienced actors. You need to get practice. And that practice is by going to an acting class, by joining your friends, grabbing your friends and making some films on the weekend, by watching really, really great actors and studying their craft and finding out what they are doing. So just like any job, you need to work at it. You need to train and you need to be ready for that job. So when you do walk onto a set at the age of 17 with really experienced actors, you can hold your head high at the end of the day. Sure, you might have to fake it till you make it a little bit, but as long as you've got that research there and that training in the back of your mind, you will do a really good job.
Do you think training, when it comes to training, a degree is necessary, or?
No, not at all, not at all. And I think that there was ones that when I was younger, it did involve going to university. You would have to go to university for 3 years, to do an acting degree or TV production or whatever. It's not like that anymore. As long as you do some regular classes, they're all over Sydney or whatever part of the world you're in, you will find, go to different ones and find the one that makes you happy. And as long as you are learning, it's the right place for you.
Amazing. Well, Wayne, thank you so much for spending some of your Tuesday evening with me. I appreciate it. Good luck and on your journey to continuing making it for the next however many decades you're working on it. It doesn't sound like you're going to be giving up anytime soon.
I thought you were going to say it doesn't sound like you're going to last too much longer.
Not at all.
Imminent death.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing more of your journey as I follow your career.
Thank you.
Thank you.